Honorable Dr. Jesse Kabwila, our guest of honor, the Deputy President of the Movement for Democratic Change, Mr. Obed Chaurura Gutu, and his wife, Tendai Gutu, Honorable Abednego Bebo, the National Chairperson, Mr. Nixon Nikadzino, the Secretary General, and all leadership and delegates at this auspicious extraordinary Congress of our party, the diplomatic community, civil society, and other political parties, notable Thokozani and PRC, and other political parties represented here today. It is with profound humility and a great sense of honor that I accept your nomination for President of the Movement for Democratic Change. 26 years ago, I was the Secretary of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions Women's Advisory Council, going door to door into companies in what was then a relatively thriving economy, as we built and sharpened this labor body to confront government more directly over working conditions. In those years, I closely worked with my departed president and comrade, Dr. Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, who at that time was the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, main wing, and I was then the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, women's wing. Coincidentally, he became the president of the MDCT, and I became the deputy president of the MDCT. So that's how long I've known my departed president. May his dear departed soul rest in eternal peace. We shall forever cherish and build on the foundation for the democratization of our country, which President Tsvangirai laid at a time when it was not fashionable to challenge the ZANU-PF government. President Tsvangirai led us on a new path, which was popularized by sheer hard work, determination, service, and sacrifice. Our memory of him is that of our champion, because his vision lives on. Today we stand together on this historic Stanley Square in Makokoba, on the edge of a historic crossover to our long-held dream of a new Zimbabwe. This venue is special in the history of this country, as giants like the late Father Zimbabwe, Dr. Joshua Mkabu Nkomo, and others stood on this podium and defined the struggle of generations through a leadership consensus which knew no color, no creed, no sex or tribe, age or religion. The struggle for generations is what has led us to this famous and yet humble town of Makokoba, to make our footprints and the sands of the time as those who heeded the call to build a leadership consensus which will carry forward with the broader aspirations of our people. Let me state categorically that we make no apology. Let me state categorically that we make no apology about calling to order those of our comrades who have hijacked our party to further their goals in political expediency at the expense of the general populace who make this movement for democratic change such a glorious organization to call home. We meet at a time when most of the people have no jobs to feed their families and to send their children to school. A good education is the only heritage we are able to give our children. The government must not stand on our way in carrying out that responsibility. The health sector is in shambles, and the government of the day has further worsened the situation by firing all nurses who engaged in industrial action to demand a living wage. We need to understand that it is the government's responsibility to provide quality healthcare to citizens by providing standard infrastructure like hospitals and clinics. At the same time, it is government's responsibility to take care of health workers. Our doctors and nurses are professionals who deserve a better living wage because they also have families to take care of. Our constitution gives Zimbabweans the right to demonstrate peacefully, and we cannot have a government that takes away that right from any of our fellow citizens. In other words, we must not allow this government to find an excuse for abusing our health workers on the basis that they work for a critical sector that saves our lives. We refuse to be made to fight with professionals who are facing the same economic hardships that we face. All workers in Zimbabwe deserve better salaries, including nurses. We meet at a time when most of us who are poor in the rural and urban areas are facing hunger and starvation on a daily basis. Zimbabwe is suffering from an economic collapse caused by the ZANU-PF government. In 2013, the ZANU-PF-led government promised more than 2 million jobs. They promised to provide food, medical care, education, and other social amenities. 5 years later, we have actually witnessed a decline in the jobs that we had. Further to that, social amenities have declined from the standard they had reached during the inclusive government. It is indeed now clear for all to see that the MDCT was the good governance factor in the inclusive government. During the inclusive government, we witnessed economic stability and improvement in people's lives. What we have seen after the 2013 elections is growth in corruption and other vices caused by an insensitive government. There are no drugs in hospitals. We are witnessing big numbers of school dropouts. Unemployment is about 95%. The economy has been informalized. Those who still have a job cannot get access to cash and the banks. Our roads have become impassable, especially in the rural areas. Hospitals have become deathbeds, and yet our government is not showing any concern. We have gathered here today as to reboot our plans for turning around the fortunes of our country. The able leadership you have elected today will deliver the change you want in government, because it will usher in a new trajectory, in a new culture of doing things. It is no longer business as usual. This Congress is the beginning of our dreams and hopes. The new government, led by the MDC, will focus on broad-based economic empowerment that will ensure that people have got jobs. We want decent jobs that will ensure that all of us put food on our tables, can take our children to school, can afford decent health care, and have access to clean water and alternative sources of energy like solar power and biogas in rural areas. This government will put more effort on industrializing the economy. Zimbabwe is highly informalized, with more than 6 million people in the informal sector. Almost everybody in Zimbabwe right now is in the informal sector. And yet informalization does not facilitate capital accumulation. We want the formal sector to work. We want to create jobs. We want people to have decent salaries so that they are able to have a better life for themselves and their families. This government will focus on sincere re-engagement with the international community. This government will focus on bringing the much needed foreign direct investment. An MDC-led government will seek to join the global world and play a part in order to ensure every citizen has a country they are proud of. Zimbabwe is blessed with natural resources: gold, diamonds, coal, methane gas, chrome, platinum, iron ore. And the sad reality is that we have absolutely nothing to show that we are a rich country. When I look at all of us, I'm supposed to be seeing diamonds glittering in our eyes. I'm supposed to be seeing gold glittering in our eyes. But what is it that we see? We see poverty, 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 and poverty. My government will seek to exploit these resources for the benefit of all of us through value addition and beneficiation. In 2013, Zimbabweans across the political divide passed a new constitution into law. Central to this constitution is the principle of devolution of power as the government model and a means of empowering elected representatives to make decisions on how best their communities can exploit resources in their localities. This constitutional provision must be implemented in the letter and in the spirit in which this constitution was written, based on the dictates of our constitution. It must be used as a key of unlocking the value of our natural resources in a way that benefits local communities. Timber in Lupane must benefit the people of Lupane first and then the nation. Diamonds in Marange must benefit the people of Marange first. I will go further to state that respect for constitutions does not just start at government level, but within the political system. Clarity begins at home. MDC was founded on constitutionalism and the rule of law. No one can truly be a proud member of our party if they cannot respect their own constitution. Constitutionalism is the blood of the party. Democracy, the bonds that it stands on, and our values. We therefore cannot, at any time and under any circumstances, be seen to be violating our own party constitution. ZANU-PF and its representative long tore the national constitution and threw it into the dustbin. Other political formations have also done the same to their party's constitutions, and yet want to be given the national constitution. We stand in the gap, and we must never ever allow our country to be ruled outside the constitution. And at the same time, we must never ever allow our political parties to be ruled outside the constitution. This Congress is therefore our clarion call to us to entrench constitutionalism and democratic principles. As the Congress theme highlights, we must return to our founding principles and values of peace, love, tolerance, and solidarity. These values are sacred and in themselves denounce the use of violence on any person for political gain. I implore you as members of the party to demand of these values from ZANU-PF and from those among us in the party and in the opposition camp, so that they respect constitutions and they adhere to the values and principles of those political parties. Let me be clear that as your leader, I have zero tolerance for violence and hate language and lawlessness. As your servant, I shall listen to your advice with the leadership endorsed today. I am confident I will not fail you. These men and women who have accepted your nominations are of great caliber and will carry your mandate to deliver a new and better Zimbabwe. We shall hold each other accountable to respect both the party and the national constitution, and we urge you to do your part. We stand for a leadership consensus premised on the ideals and principles of our constitution, and we will not fail you. As you are aware, We are less than 3 months before the holding of national elections. We have a lot of work to do. We need to win this election. We are going to begin a process of nominating candidates for the House of Assembly, Senate, and councillors. Campaign will begin in earnest. Let us all put our shoulders to the wheel and get votes out there, because we are the MDC, a party of excellence. The Bible says, if God is for us, no one can be against us. And I would like to say this today. God is for all of you gathered at this extraordinary Congress, and no one will be against us. May the Lord Almighty bless you all. May the Lord Almighty bless Zimbabwe. May the God Almighty bless the movement for democratic change, led by none other than Dr. Thokozani Khupe. I would like to take this opportunity to call upon a great sister, a colleague, in the struggle for democracy, in the struggle for the emancipation of women. She is a woman of courage. She is a woman of stature. And this is none other than Dr. Jessie Kabila, the chairperson of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, Regional Women's Caucus, the chairperson of the Women's Caucus in the Malawian Parliament, and MP for Salima Northwest, and she's also the publicity secretary for the Malawi Congress Party. She is our guest of honor. She traveled all the way from Malawi. But before she speaks, I would like to call all the women who are elected today, so that she sees that this party is gender sensitive, and we have adhered to the 50-50, gender equality issues. Can all the ladies please come forward? The Deputy President, Honorable Gutu, initially alluded to the fact that out of the 15 standing committee members, we have 7 women and 8 men. This is a great achievement which we will always cherish.